koha and item type identification in cleanup by the fabulous Ms. Lauren.
So, I am ADHD and was a children's librarian, so I talk really, really fast. So if I go too fast, please like raise your hand and say, slow down. And I will try my best to slow down. Kind of like, I'm a cataloger, so this is exciting.
Remember, you have an entire hour.
It doesn't matter. And I've given this presentation before, and I looked and I did 22 slides, and then I added more koha specific, and now I'm up to 38 slides. So I'm like, oh, I made it talk even faster. So, okay, the picture here is to describe what was happening with our records. So think of the water as your OPAC and doing the search and getting expected search results. All of the rocks are all of the bad data in your OPAC. So I have 24 libraries. I looked all these statistics up. I'm like, y'all probably would be helpful if you knew a little bit about our consortium, and I'm not going to read those numbers because I do not do math. And they're really, really big. We have small, large. I only have one in North Carolina. The rest, we've got like 8 or 10 in Asia, 6 in Africa, 1 in Europe. So communication is sometimes hard. And I've only visited 2 of our libraries. So when I joined, someone else had come in. When I came in, whoever was responsible for bringing the records in, I don't know, some people I think knew what they were doing. Some people knew what they were doing, but did not know how to catalog. So that explains some of the problems. So here's some of the problems. So legacy records, and I've worked with softwares that do this. Excel does this. Deleting A and B, that leading article, if you put it at the beginning, it sorts by it, and you don't want that. So you put it at the end of the title. In koha, you don't want it at the end of the record title, beginning of the title, and use the indicator to skip it. So I had to clean all that up. And 24 libraries, you know, every librarian has their own way of doing things. It was kind of fun and interesting. I never knew what I got. One thing, and I have a feeling that one of the people who helped us just wrote a script and said, take all of this and create a mark. Because I had like 5 libraries that all had authors or subjects in the 590 note saying, system error. People, and then it would give me the information of which koha was not searching unless you did a keyword search because it didn't know it existed because it was in a 590. So I had to move on. The book was the default item type. A lot of our libraries just they put book. It didn't matter what it was. So I'm like, it says book, but don't believe it. It could be a CD, it could be a CD-ROM, it could be a DVD, it could be a VHS. I don't know. So that was part of the things that I did. A lot of our records had no indicators, or if the title had the and it was at the end, they still put a 4 in the second indicator. So it skipped the first 4 letters of the first word. And my catalogers are like,
It's like ghost stories.
See, this was a project. It took me 2 years to figure out what was going on. And then I started this in 2017, so it's been a while coming. A lot of our stuff, the majority of our records were missing the RDA. They did not have the 33678, and they didn't have the 942C. I do not remember which koha started giving you this beautiful little icon in the search results of the item type. And that's populated by the 942C. And so before, it didn't matter that it wasn't there. And then whenever that came aboard, I'm like, oh, you mean you can tell what the item type is from the search results? This is wonderful. Because before it's like you couldn't really see the item records, they were so tiny. You had to like click on the bib record. So I fixed all of that. And then we had catalogers who didn't know what they were doing, just imported everything from Z3950. You can't do that. Like, you need to clean up. They put their local notes in it, and we have our local notes. And we also had a lot of the 001 was for the library that owned it before, and that's a very local number. Your machine. So in Koha, you need the 001 to match your bid number, basically. And so I had to fix all that. So my game plan was to first identify what needs to be done. I'm both the systems librarian and the trainer consultant. So I also, if I'm gonna do all this work, I don't want them to continue making the same mistakes as they did before. So I need to make this super duper easy. In tomorrow's session, doing the plug, I'm going to go through, this is how you edit the frameworks to make it super duper easy for your cataloger. This is the stuff I created. It's the more hands-on. This is how you can do this for your library in Marquette. So if you have no questions on how to do that, tomorrow's session will go by really quickly. And then reach out to other catalogers for tools that they use, because I did not know RDA. I'm still learning RDA. This is my plug. I use all of those special interest groups at one point or another to solve my problems. And I'll try to remember some of the stories because they were rather comical. As I go through the Koha listserv, I cannot remember which session someone was asking where are the video playlists of the former SIGs. That has the SIGs, the Bywater videos, the every other Thursday, because I've used those as I needed to. And then the Mark Edit, and then I'm also part of Association of Christian Librarians Technical Services Group, which also was a very big help. So my first one was research. What fields are needed for us to catalog an audio CD? I was an elementary school librarian. I really didn't care. Like, it didn't matter. But then when you start getting into special libraries, it matters. You start to care. Our libraries have are mostly special and academic, with a couple of like small office libraries. So it does matter, the more technical stuff. And then how do I batch edit this stuff? Because I don't want to do it manually. That's a lot of records. How do I identify like what records need to be edited for which item type? Did all of that, creating the frameworks. So these are the most common fields that pretty much is touched. So the leader has to be touched on everything. The 008, the 300 I would look at. If it doesn't say pages and it's a book, is it really a book? So I had several that said disc, and so I'm like, okay, listen, here are all these. Can you something needs to change? Either the 300 is wrong, or the item type is wrong. But I don't know. So please look it up. So that's one reason why I'm still in the middle of this project, is because it's correspondence. I can't edit until they tell me, and then they never tell me when I'm free. So this back and forth. The 3, 3, 6, 7, 8, that was also like, if those told me it was a microfiche, but the item type said book, okay, which is it? Because it could be it really is a book. They imported a microfiche record and didn't know they were supposed to change it. And so then you get this discrepancy. So my goal was to clean all this up so that the user coming in would know what to do. The 533 is for microfiche, just to know where the reproduction came from. Some online has it. online resources. And the system requirement note, it's kind of helpful if it's a CD-ROM or a computer file or a DVD, like, especially internationally, there are more than, like, I cannot remember how many, but DVDs from the US cannot be played on all DVD players in Asia. There's a different system. And I know our DVDs can't be played on players from Australia, and theirs can't be played here, like there's conversions involved. So that's helpful to have there, and then the local item note. So in Koha, when I'm saying frameworks, this is in the system admin. This is kind of where you would go to create it. Fred talked on it a little bit this morning. In there, you can edit whatever those say, which I put local on all of the fields that were like that 001 and 0003, and even the 005 for the date. I'm like, I don't care when it was added to the library that you imported it from. I care about when you put it in Koha. So just delete it and then click it. And then the RDA information, what I did is created our frameworks to put that in there. So that if they imported microfiche, all they have to do is delete the 33678, delete the item type, delete all your control fields, go up to the top, choose print book, and voila, it's all there. Now all they have to do is edit the 008, double check stuff, but it's ready to go. And then an update. And I lost it all. And I'm like, when I went to cataloging and they didn't know what's going on, they're like, try the general meeting in the system admin meeting. So the general meeting, went to the sys admin meeting, Andrew knew the bugs. He's like, this is an enhancement on 2211. And I am still on 2205. And I'm like, we're nowhere near ready. I'm unsupported. Please help. And so he helped me write a bug. This was like a year ago, maybe. And then he helped me very carefully, like wrote it in there, and then fairly soon Lucas said, oh, sorry, we didn't realize people were needing this. And backported it to the 220510. So if you want any of this to work, it will not work before 220510. So the step 2 was get the local librarians involved. So I had them like check, send me barcode lists of all your CDs, and then I would do batch modifications. Send barcode, like that we did back and forth barcode lists, or I'd send them a list in Koha that I ran a report and say, can you confirm that all of these are really DVDs? It also helped us like delete, it's gone, like we got rid of a lot of records that because item didn't exist anymore. Step 3 was getting ready to edit. So I had to figure out like, which one do I want to do first? I knew books were going to be the last one because those had to be done by library. And those involved a lot more records. So let me start small. I think I did microfiche maybe first because they only had like 60 records to mess with, and it's pretty straightforward and easy. But like I worked my way up because every time I did one, I learned what I was doing wrong. And it improved for the next one. So, and I also always ran a report of all barcodes of all the books so that I had a report of what I was messing with. I exported the item type, all libraries. I like that new feature. I don't remember which version it came in, where you can select by item type instead of all records by library. Because that made it a lot easier. If I had to download all of the records and then just pull out each item type, splitting that is not easy in MarcEdit. Editing is splitting and merging. I'm not that far yet. So knowing what to do, I had my checklist, created local counts, for everything. These are some of the reports. One of them near the end, I'm like, I have. It's over 200 mixed materials, and we made the decision we want only one item type on a record, and I have 200 that have two item types on the record. And Jason gave me the report for CR and RPR, so that, because I'm like, yes, the majority of the duplicate records are, some libraries call it a journal and other libraries call it a reprint, which is correct. And all of those are still in limbo because we haven't made the decision yet what we're going to do with them. So we'll eventually get done with this project, maybe by next year. Some things I did all of our libraries, some were by library. It kept going back. Sometimes I needed to run a specific field. So like if it's online resources, it should have an 856 with a URL. If it does not have an 856 with a URL, how is it an online resource? So then that was another question. Like, did you just forget? Because I'm like, I've been the cataloger. You get interrupted and you think you finished it because you hit save and you didn't go back. So a lot of this was catching and deleting, and or the link used to work and it no longer works. We also, our organization has a digital archive. And so some of the materials were supposed to be in the archive and they never made it through. And it was part of the workflow. So I'm like, hey, well, the good news is we now have more resources in our archive because we found that they weren't there because they were supposed to be. We had a record for them in our catalog, but it never made its way to the archive. So we fixed that. Okay, so I created a checklist. Google, if you didn't know, has this wonderful feature called checklists, and it creates the little box. And when you click it, it checks it off. So I ran these for like every item type. I've got like a stack of 50, or not 50, but maybe 20, 25. For each item type, because each one I'm so ADHD. I can't keep track of where I am, and some days I only have like 2 hours. So I'd only get one step. And then other days most of them I tried to do it when I had a big block of time. A lot of these were done on a Friday and a Saturday, because my Friday is Asia's Saturday. And my Saturday is there are advantages to like the time zone difference. So I was able to kind of get most of it done with the least amount of disruption. And I felt like this cat a lot. Just where am I going in circles? So exporting, so I did it by item type, all records. Once I got it into Mark Edit, which Fred showed you earlier, and I will go into more detail on that tomorrow, is making sure, so I had a lot of them where it said microfiche, but you start digging in the record and I'm like, this isn't a microfiche. Something looks weird. So I started like pulling those records out and creating this long list. I've got 5 spreadsheets of things that I'm still I have to organize now so I can contact the libraries to figure out, okay, these were errors, something didn't match, what's wrong? Please help me fix it. And then go through the checklist, confirm that, and then start editing. One of the things we have 24 libraries. Everyone does it different. You think everyone does it different in the US, just trying to imagine global. So I had some libraries that put spaces instead of dashes, or the dashes, but the standard is nothing, just the number. So I did that. I even had some where the call number was in the ISBN. I had some of them like the ISBN held things like notes or call number, and I'm like, I don't know how this got, I mean, to me, it was more like, okay, someone did some kind of a code and it just, something got off on this record and it just ended up there. So now all of that's cleaned up. I talked about the articles at the beginning. The indicators were a big thing for the title field. So before I ran from they were blank to they had a 1 for the first number, but there was no author. So it should have been a 0, and the second number was 0 and it had the word "the" in the beginning, or like they were not consistent. They were consistently wrong. And it messed up our searching. So the indicators I discovered is what determines your search order. So if they're not right in your titles, it'll throw things at the end that's supposed to be at the beginning. Another thing I learned, if it doesn't have a 008, it doesn't know it exists. It needs the 000 and the 008. It needs something. It doesn't care that you filled out the information. Just click in it. But it needs something. So that was one of the things I added. So I had to edit, like I had a lot of corporate authors that were in the 100. I needed to move them to the 110. Fixing all the indicators so that they were actually right. A future project is to standardize and create authority files for all of our authors and subjects. Because they were, again, all over the place. And some of it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is a misspelling, but I don't have time to figure it out. I'll do it later. Correcting the articles, adding and deleting. One thing I learned, and Fred and I did this last year, save. So on my checklist, if you noticed, like I had 02 ISBN, 03 articles. Like I actually wrote when would be a good time to save and to number. Like this is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one, this is the fourth one, so that I could keep track of what step I was on. But also if I needed to go back, I didn't have to start from scratch. I learned that at my beginning stages of market. Not as bad as it is now, but it was bad. So the bad thing, the one that I don't know how to fix this, I had to add just a generic 008. So the numbers for the date are 00000, because I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, I need something there because koha's gonna get mad at me. I want it to show up. So it won't search the creation date right, is basically what it messes up. So one day, maybe in the future, we will figure out how to do it. So in some ways, if no one uses it, then, does it care? The RDA edits that leader, again, I don't know how, because I have, in 2017, if you put something into Koha, it forced you, like it created the leader for you. So evidently in the early stages of Koha, when I joined, it was like on 3.17. We had to wait for groups to come in. So in 2017 is when we did this massive like upgrade. It was like Christmas. I'm glad that feature is built in there. That it won't let you put anything in Koha without a leader. Like you can't save. It's not gonna let you. You have to force it not to let, so like the item type, I have forced people, you have to put the item type in this record. I will not let you save without it, because I don't want to have to do this project again with all the records that you forgot to save. And then we use linking fields, and we're trying to use all of those, which is why the 001, we have to use the system preference use control number, because we want to use all of those, not just the 773. So right now, there's 3 preferences that will do the 773, but only 1 that will allow you to do all of them. And before, all of our links were in the 773. So I was also having to like, okay, wait a minute, this isn't a parent-child relationship. This is a print and electronic. This needs to go in the 776. Let's move these, and this is really a different edition, not part of a series. So I would move the one. Oh, did I hit something? Okay. The advanced editing, this took me a while to learn, was moving, because I didn't want to have to manually put in the move number in 001. Having Mark edit, copy it from the 999C and create a new field in the 001 so that I didn't have to do that. So all of my records now have a 001, except for maybe the first couple ones that I didn't know how to do it, because I learned that during this project. Edit the leader, adding and remove. So some of them, like the subfield was wrong. Pretty sure somewhere there. Maybe I have that tomorrow on the note thing, because I'm pretty sure I have that in one of my slides. And then as always, Mark Edit has a way to validate your records, because you don't. I don't want to put in records that still have problems. That was the whole point, was to solve the problems. So Mark Edit will tell me if something is not kosher, it does not work, Koha won't like it, so I can fix it. And then writing mail and emails, I still have got to do that. Then matching, it took me a while to figure out like, how do I want to get these back in? So for this project, I'm like one thing at a time. We're just gonna match on the bid record. So all of the records that I had, I cleaned up and they went back to their record at some point, because I had everyone using different ISBNs. That ISBN matching rule didn't work because they weren't all following the same pattern. So a future project will be working on my duplicate records, because we have a lot. And then after you import, I always check that it went through, especially I have a lot of non-Roman script. So I always want to check and make sure that like it kept the non-Roman script and didn't give me weird symbols. Because that has happened before, and then I have to undo the import, figure out what it's usually, I didn't select something right, and either Mark Edit or Koha and then get it back in. Emails. Okay, then I had to a lot of this was like doing simultaneously, creating the framework. So like the print book framework I did early on before I even started editing books, and then as I was editing, I was kind of doing the creating in Koha. This is kind of a sample. So in Koha, if you create a new record, it will autofill that for an audio CD. It will autofill that, which basically just says it's a sound recording. You still have to add the details, but it's better than nothing. Can't figure out how to get it to edit or add just the section for the 23, like just that one field in the 008. I don't know how to do that. That's something I'm like, so if anyone knows how to do that in a framework or batch edit. And then here are the lessons I learned. People don't always agree on the fields to use.
You know.
You can get a room full of catalogers and they won't ask for help early on. So one of my things was I had a 590 note, and that note I was talking about earlier, and I came early to the education meeting because it's koha-US groups. We have fun. You come early for the free laughter. So I came early, and Jason and some other people were there, and I'm like, I have this problem. I have all of these. with this long notice again, and then it has like the author or the subject, and they go, well, could you just put the note at the beginning and then put nothing in the change to, and then hit edit? And I'm like, yes. Where were you 2 days ago when I was doing the other item type? Moving things, like they showed me a lot of stuff just before the meeting even started, how to fix my problems. Go to the suits, they're a lot of fun. Which one am I on? Oh, identify records with multiple item types. I kind of wish I had started on that a little sooner than I did, just for like getting help from local librarians, because that's the part I'm still in the midst of. And if I had started it sooner, I think we could have gotten further in the conversation than we are now. And then save often and keep track of what I'm on and what step I'm on. And like I would write down the fields for each set of records. And I wish I had like written down, okay, you know what, you're always gonna have to delete these because they don't really matter, you don't need them. And then if you see these, that means it's this item type. Like I kind of wish I had done that early on. I still don't even have that created, though I could use the frameworks that I've created as cheat sheets. And then look closer at all of those fields, which I didn't know at the beginning. It was more recent that I learned those. Okay, so all of this stuff, I'm trying to figure out how. We're going to try to put it on the koha-US Learn page because I am willing to share all of it. So the checklist that I use, so you can take it, copy it, create it for yourself. The RDA cheat sheets that I created, the mark edit how-to documents. A big one are the mark edit tasks. So mark edit has a way where you can export and import tasks. So I have two very important ones. I have one that will clean and like basically take all your 245s and make them the same. And then once you go in and edit the first indicator, the second task will automatically run and change the second indicator that's 0 into the correct indicator based on articles. So if it's A, it'll automatically put a 2. If it's N, it'll put a 3. If it's C, it'll put a 4. So that you don't have to manually do that every time. It's like, it's click. Okay, now do I select edit? We're done. Okay, run the test. Voila, I'm done. So that the co-op frameworks, I've also I've already got these pre-filled. One of the things I would love to I'll wait on that one because I think I have a side word. And then all the SQL things that I did. Here we go. This is what I was getting ready to say earlier. So there are 2 bugs, and I can't figure out what this falls under. Just put them both up. One thing I would love to see. I have seen other softwares have this, so I know, and I think it'd be fairly easy to build it in the co-op. It's just you're needing the catalogers to tell the programmers this is what goes here. Because the frameworks, I can do it. I can actually do in macros. So one of the things I had, a DVD should have 3 separate 344 fields. I can't do that with frameworks. It only lets me auto-populate 1. But in Advanced Editor, I can add as many as I want, and then it'll automatically put it. The second one is if, so in the basic editor, if I have selected the framework for print book, but this is a book with a CD. If I select audio CD next, it'll add the 0, 0, 6, and 7 because that's not in book. But it's going to do nothing for my 3, 3, 6, 7, 8 because that's already for print book. I'm needing 2 3, 3, 6, 2 3, 3, 7s, 2 3, 3, 8s. in macros, I can, so then I have to go to the advanced editor and then select the CD-ROM. So I'm like, I've got catalogers that are like, they're the secretary who was in charge of the books. I can't have a new advanced editor. So they're gonna have to say, can you touch this record and edit? And I'm like, I want the power to be in the hands of the local librarian, not me. But until we can get a way to make it where it's easy and basic in Koha, I can't do that. But at least I did find a workaround. The other one, how do you pre-fill that 008/23 for the form of item? So that when you select, online resources, it automatically populates that. The leader, if it's a new record, Koha will pre-populate that field. If it's an existing record, even if you empty the leader and select the framework, it won't change it. So you have to manually do it. So that's a step that I'm like, if you could just, one stop for all of our basic people. And then so the default is language item, which for the majority of things that works, but not for map sound recordings, websites, not for everything. So it'd be nice if you could pre-fill some stuff. Some other bugs that is in the works. Heather posted this one on improving the Mark 21 linking fields. Like there's gotta be, like we're having to edit our I never can get these letters right. The XSLT, put it up, to make it display. If you don't write that into your local code, it won't display. You can edit it all you want. You can make it visible in the staff interface, but it's not going to show up on the OPAC unless you put that in there. And then I'm using a lot of authorized values to make it easier for catalogers. And there's no way to like have it change the language. So like item type, if you select book, if you change the language and you can tell it, these are the different translations to use for that word. Sorry, I'm type 1 diabetic and my blood sugar's going high. That's what the beeping is. So it would be nice for my authorized framework that I have for physical format that says for DVD version, for print version, for online version, to make it easy and standardized for all my libraries, if there was a way to translate that. And I don't know why, but currently it's blocked because of another bug. Which in the other bug, I think this needs to be changed, but I don't know how to change it because they're changing how Koha works, which is why I think that bug was blocked. Which makes sense, but I don't know how to reword it to fit the new thing because I don't understand what the new thing means. I'm a beginner in Bugzilla, but I commented on bug. Actually, 2 bugs. I'm excited. And did that. Okay, so these are all of the RDA resources that I use online. So you can look them up for yourself. And then these are the Mark edit guides that are wonderful. So a lot of these got me started and then I could figure out the rest of the way. And then, okay. Questions come on. Tomorrow's presentation is on the how to do everything that I talked about today. Okay. What time is it?
You got 20 minutes.
I got 20 minutes. Okay. So, question and answers. Questions.
There are a couple of online comments.
Okay.
So early on, you mentioned Andrew and the help that he had given you, and Heather says Andrew rocks. And then at different points during your talk, people said yes, 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 smiley face, yes.
I'm sorry, George, can you read those against the way they were written?
Well, there's one right before your talk started that said yes, exclamation. I think there's like 5 exclamation. Chanty, woo, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. There's one yes with 3 exclamations. Andrew Box has an exclamation. Then there's a smiley face. Yes with 2 exclamations. Yes, smiley face. Yes, and I think there's 5 exclamations. And now Heather says standing ovation, bravo, woo, more Box, exclamation, exclamation. And now there's something that says I want to see George perform the emojis.
And I'm from your grade 4 and they asked me an actual question. Main point. So you said that the 008, not having an 008 means it just doesn't exist. You scare me. Does that just mean it doesn't get in this? And is that what that was just for effect. No,
This corner over here, they know a little bit more about how koha works than I do,
will you cover that in the
but
last research?
no, that's Fred. Well, will you cover that in the? It does, it's like it puts it at the end.
So what you're saying is it's purely about the dates.
It needs the zero, it just needs something in the 008.
Okay.
And then it also has to have an item attached. If it doesn't have an item record, it also. But that one's random. I can't figure it out.
Is it 008, sorry, this is Christopher, is 008 used in relevancy? And is that why it's being thrown at the end, maybe?
It's just.
If you're sorting by publication date or copyright date,
This later.
it's a thing from Bywater. There are 2 fields in Koha. There's the copyright date and the publication date. One of those is drawn from the 952. One of those is drawn from the 008. I believe, if I'm wrong, correct me. But so if you're sorting by the date that uses the 008, then yes, your records are going to end up, I think, either way at the front or way at the bottom, but it's going to be wrong. So it will need that date there in order to populate the field that it's using for sorting. And then in reference to Sarah's question, I think it was, who was saying that there are always, yes.
Every once in a while, I wasn't worried until right now.
Well, just please let us know if you have ones that are indexing or doing something weird like that, that we can check into it. I don't know off the top of my head whether the 008 missing affects that, but I won't talk about any of this in my topic tomorrow, because I'm going to try to keep it brief and light and fun and say the last happy times.
And then my other question is, have you tried applying a mark template to quote unquote add to use as a macro essentially to edit a record and add those extra three
So are you talking about the
when you said that you're
the record modification templates?
yeah.
So yes, I tried and I failed because, but someone who knows this better than me can tell me if it really works and I didn't know what I was doing. It will always have, like, for the 338 has an A, B, and C. If I use the record batch modification, it will give me 1336A, 1336B, 13362. I now have 3 336 fields instead of 1 field with 3 subfields. I'm like, because I wanted to do, I'm like, well, maybe that, because you can get to that in the basic editor. But even that was like, well, it's 5 steps. I mean, it's a lot of steps because you have to do the basic edit, and then you have to click, and then you have to click, and then I feel like you have to click one more time, and then you have to go back to the record. No, I am still working in 2205, so some of this may be fixed in 2211. We're upgrading next month. But I don't know. Glad you're here, Nick.
Well, no, I don't know if that's fixed or not. I know that you can now,
Okay.
I don't know which version it is, you can apply a mark modification template directly from the record details. So you don't have to like go to the batch modification, you can do it right from the record itself.
You can, okay, that sounds wonderful. You can do it,
But it will. Yeah,
but it then takes you still like, it then says. Your batch modification is in a queue. And then you have to go to the queue and figure out how in the world to see if it did it or not. And then I'm still like, but I really just need to go back to the record. I thought it was, it'll do it. Like, I have the record open and then it will apply it and then I'll be able to see it, but that's not how it functions.
if it takes you to the preview screen, when you
Uh-huh.
click the preview during a mark edit, it is actually showing you the complete record, like what the
Oh.
record will look like after
After.
you apply it. So that is one sheet. I don't ever actually have to go to the background queue. You can just ignore it and go back to the record and assume that
Okay.
within a very short amount of time, two will have been done. Something that we know we need to work on. A lot of people have complaints about that background. queue. But the question I wanted to ask was tomorrow in your thing, will you cover, or do you know that you can actually push records directly back into Koha from Mark Edit without having to do an import?
I do know that you can do that. But our IT won't let me.
Fair enough.
It also is, for this project, I don't know if that would actually help me. Because before I imported the new records in, I did a new export. So that I had a backup of what was there. So if anybody came back and said, something's missing, I thought it was, you know, a note that shouldn't be there and it really was supposed to be there, or I don't think this would happen, but you know, I'm cautious. Something messed up in the import. I want to have that part, you know, I want that to the second. Here's the export of the backup I can go into and look at, and you wouldn't have that with the. Because yeah, I know I asked and they said no, because you could accidentally overwrite something, and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't use it for that. It's just, you know, I need it for like there's 5 records that need to be, you know, I'm not gonna ever use it for this. I pulled out, you know, 100 or a couple thousand records. That's too scary.
There is an online comment from Heather. She says, Anne Ryan in New Zealand knows a lot about the mark modification templates and such, so that might be somebody you want to reach out to. Anne Ryan.
Okay, I can't remember, because I asked this question in our last cataloging suit. And the feedback I got back was, yes, it's really annoying. No, it doesn't work. If it has 3 subfields, you have to use the macro. It will create, it doesn't know how to put 3 subfields in the same field. It just doesn't know what to do. But I mean, the newer versions, but because I don't think enough people were moving to 2211 still a month ago. So, I don't know if the 2211 has that, but I feel like I tried it in that one because we have a QA that's on 2211 and I couldn't get it. It only does 1 subfield at a time, which is fine depending on what you're doing, but it's very helpful for what I was doing. If I wanted to add the 942C, the batch modification would work. But for the 33678, it failed. And I can't remember if you can add the zeros. I don't know if you can add control fields with the batch. Yeah, you can't do. So I think the macros indicators, I haven't gotten that far yet. I feel like there may be something special you have to do at night with indicators. None of mine had indicators, like none of the fields I was using had indicators, so it didn't matter. I haven't graduated to indicators yet.
This is one of the things that I found frustrating with the mark modification templates and built into Koha. Is that they cannot check or change indicators. There's a bug for that I want to point out. It's bug 21860 is about getting Koha so they can. So that the mark modification tool can work with the indicators, which it can't do most. You're good.
This is Jason. I wonder, have you ever considered, like, for us, when we find a record that has the credit 008, it usually means that somebody's trying to make something up and the rest of the record is credit due. In general, we're just like working through that one at a time, overlaying a record from 2015. I mean, it probably doesn't in your situation in your record, but like, have you ever considered like going out, getting the batch of better records and just overlaying your existing record?
We have, so what I ended up doing though, is just gave it all a generic 008, just so that there is something there. It had a future project, again, I'm like, there's so much that needs to be done. I almost did too much in this project. I mean, I did 9 or 10 different cleanups. So a future one is, my brain just left. What are we talking about? Which field? 008. Thank you. There in Mark Edit, someone's written code. I don't do code. I think I did paste. It's my level of code. To move the date that's in the 260C or the 264C and put it in the 008. But before I can do that, I have to clean up my dates in my 260C and 264, because some of them have dashes, some of them have just question marks in there with no date, because they didn't know they were supposed to leave it empty. Like, that would require me to clean it up before I could run the thing to move it. So, but it's on our to-do list.
I'll just reiterate, like when I was working on the kids book pack, I have running into, oh, when I did that it's sorting some weird stuff, and then I go and yep, don't have any data in the 08, or yep, the title indicators are way off. So it's probably happens everywhere. I hope it happens everywhere.
So
It happens other parts of things too.
Hello, Fred again. This is a question for you, but a question that you inspired me to ask the developers in the room. You said that there could be an item attached to the records, otherwise weird things would happen. I had that happens also. We have a lot of online books. And you can first put in an item and 952, and for one thing, I couldn't export or couldn't search, and a lot of other things. So I just put in a generic 952 without a barcode, and that took care of the problem with that. Is that still going to happen with Koha? I heard that it is possible to do stuff without a 952. But I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what this problem is referring to. So I'm going to turn the question around, saying, have you filed a bug? Because I'm able to what happens. And if you do that, CC on it, those times to try.
Okay.
Answers.
Okay. We can do that. Yeah, Fred, I have that. So before we used easy analytics. And so I have one library who has over 200, that he indexed their journals. So the problem is with easy analytics, it's really easy to do it backwards. So sometimes he has the parent going to the child, but easy analytics, it doesn't matter. They both show up the same way. The sorting kind of messes up because one doesn't have any items on it. It just looks like it has an item on it. But when you use control number, that invisible, visible item vanished. And so now we're trying to figure out, like, how do we take this one library and make it fit? Because we have other libraries that they want to use, and I'm like, it displays better if you use the 776 for a different format, because it'll say in other format for DVD version, and then it has a title instead of in the title. Well, it's not in the title, it's actually a different format. So we're needing the different fields. So, but I ended up moving all of those records to a list because I couldn't export them. They don't belong to anybody because they don't have an item. And I'm like, how do I get records? The items don't exist. So this is a very loving, learning experience. If you ever do this for your library, like, please, I am more than willing to help you and prevent you from having the horror stories that I have. And I can tell you a lot of shortcuts that I learned as I have done this. Okay, any more questions? Oh.
Jason already.
Heather mentioned that she's happy, she's thrilled to hear a whole room talking about cataloging. She mentioned 19 dash. I think that was in response to you saying.
Oh.
Question.
Yeah.
That'll probably help us for better. And she also mentioned that you can control all this via indicator subfields as far as the display. So like.
Yes.
The subfield and indicators help change that.
Yes, and I am slowly learning. So one of the how-tos that I am have a decent first draft that I am willing to share with people. That's gonna be wherever we figure out where to put it. Of things is like, these are all of the linking fields. These are what will display if you tell it to display versus not display. Because that took me a while to figure all of that out. Of what all of those indicators mean. And once you get the hang of it, it's like, what? Do all this fun stuff, but getting the hang of it, it's advanced cataloging.
One more question.
Okay.
Hi, Lara, thank you for the presentation. Seeing that you're playing around with the marketer, mainly using marketing, and you talked about macros. Somebody might have already suggested, but I'm not following, I'm not active in the channels. What I want to say to you is that, like, for example, there are some database tools available for you to easily look at the data, not one record at a time, but in an easy way, so that you can figure out as one. And second thing, the database schema, for example, how different tables are linked together. The database schema also will help you to better understand what you are trying to achieve. And that for that, you don't need to be scared that you don't know about database schema. I mean, there are they're easy to grasp, but we can post it in the channels so that people who are figuring it out, like you and Fred and others, can benefit from that with that understanding. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.